Welcome back to Arise News. I'm Bill Alabi, and with me is Veronica Decker.
Welcome back.
Joining us now is Moyosore Onigbanjo, a first-class litigator and senior advocate of Nigeria, here to address some of the pressing issues in Nigeria's legal system and also share his perspective on the recently concluded Osun elections. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be with you guys.
Yes. So now I was telling her earlier, I was a little disconnected, but we did see the Osun elections happen. We saw the close call between the two elections. There was a rerun. And now the PDP candidate the PDP party have said they do not accept the final results of the election, while APC has been declared the winners of the Osun state governorship elections. Just going back in sort of like your observation over the last couple of months of the election process, if you were to start out with a grade on the democratic process in Osun State, let's say from A to F, where would you place that process, and what were some of your observation of that process?
I think one thing that struck me during this electoral process in Osun State is that I think we should commend INEC. Because the turnout was good, and unlike previous elections, I think the votes largely counted, because you can see that from the result. It was very close, just a couple of hundreds between both candidates. And to my mind, I mean, that is commendable. In the past, we just used to have landslides.
Yes.
The party, considering that Osun State is governed by APC, what would have happened in the past would be a landslide in favor of the ruling or governing party. And to the extent that it was that close, meant that the elections largely can be seen as free and fair. Of course, PDP have issues with it, which is understandable and expected. And I think the beauty of democracy is that they take their claims to the tribunal to arbitrate on it. And then everybody will be bound by the outcome of that process. Unlike in the past where bloodletting, violence, innocent people lose their lives. But I think if we follow this process through, then we're getting better from where we're coming from. So to my mind, that is what stood out in this process.
So is that like a C or B, like A plus?
Above average.
Above average, okay.
Yeah. Above average, yes.
Above average.
Yeah.
So with an election so close, when you look at it from, I mean, what is the margin that actually, do we have a judicial margin that we actually look for when we look at the election?
There's no such judicial margin, because each matter taken to an election petition tribunal, I mean, stands or falls on the facts or the evidence that the parties are able to present and establish before the tribunal. So, I mean, you never know what the PDP, what evidence they have about the malpractices that they're alleging. So it's for them to go to the tribunal, present it, and then the APC responds in kind, and then the tribunal decides. So there is no, I mean, it's not set in stone, so to speak, that, but the standard is that you must prove this on the balance of probabilities. So like there's a scale, so your evidence must outweigh the other parties for the tribunal to rule in your favor.
And so while the tribunal process is going on, what happens now with the...
So what happens is at the end of the tenure of the incumbent governor, the APC candidate will be sworn in, because I'm not so sure that the petition will be concluded before that time.
Okay.
So the declared winner will be sworn in, it takes office, and it carries on the business of governing. However, if at the end of the day, the Supreme Court, because I expect that after the tribunal, they will appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. So if at the end of the day, the Supreme Court finds for either party, so it's either the the declared winner continues, or if the Supreme Court says, well, you didn't win, then the PDP candidate will come in and take over.
Oh, wow. So when you're looking at this process, is it like a 2-3 month? I mean, when you look at the process from today to the Supreme Court, how long does that normally take?
Well, it varies from time to time depending on how contested the proceedings are. But I am sure this time around, maybe like a year or so. Will be done with. Yeah.
So someone could actually be in office for, a year, and I think we've actually had people be in office for up to, precedents up to 2 years, and then the new governor is sworn in. And then when the new governor is sworn in, he finishes out the term. It's not like he starts a new term.
No, he actually starts
a new term. So that is actually considered as almost like an interim.
Yes, so that's why, for example, you see that the Osun State gubernatorial and the Ekiti elections are taking place at different times, because that is when the tenure actually ends, as against the general elections, which for most states is next year.
Okay. That's why we have those off states. Yes. I have to say, I've wondered why there's so many off states, but I guess it's because of that precedent.
It's because of judicial intervention. So when the judiciary ultimately rules that the person who INEC declared as the winner is not the winner, so the new person comes in, and his term of office actually starts from when he takes office.
Okay. So with the Osun State gubernatorial elections, what do you see as a trend now going towards 2019? What are some of the positive things and some of the negative things?
I think the trend that I see is that the days of people not participating, I think those days are gone. People are more aware, people have been sensitized. Social media, in this aspect, is a positive thing for awareness, electoral awareness. People know that their votes count, and people want to, where they perceive that the person in power is not doing well by them, they want change. So that is good, and I think the downsides are that, just like in Osun, we still have issues of trust. The umpire has been accused by the PDP of doing so many things wrong. And then again, we still have this issue of, would I say, lack of clarity about the position of the law as regards this contentious issue in Osun State, as to where votes are counseled, and there is a candidate who has scored majority votes. So if the counseled votes, the gap between the counseled votes and the margin of victory, if there are more, then what is the position? Is it that you declare a rerun, or in accordance with the law, is it that you declare the person with the highest number of votes as the winner of that election? But the good thing is that, with this Osun matter, I think the judiciary will now settle the matter once and for all, so that in future we have the decision to guide all of us.
So if you were advising, let's say if you were advising APC, if you were their lawyer and they wanted to go forward with this process, what advice would you be giving them about this process and if they should go forward or not?
Well, APC's case is pretty easy. They've been declared as the winner.
Sorry, I mean PDP. Sorry, PDP.
Okay, PDP.
If you were their lawyer.
They've already put their position out in the public space that they're contesting it. And I think it's within their rights to do so, especially because the margin is so narrow, and also for the development of democracy and also the rule of law. We also need to have this issue settled once and for all, so that we have a guiding precedence for future elections, so that we know in future that where votes are counseled and the margin is narrow, or the council votes outweigh the margin of victory, then we all know that, oh, automatically this triggers a rerun.
Yes, yes. So in the sense of canceled votes, I have to say there was a lot of confusion around canceled votes. What does that really mean? And I think people are still confused about canceled votes. Is it that people didn't, I mean, what is that? What is canceled votes?
Well, INEC gave a number of reasons for why some votes were canceled. I think in one area, I think there were the results outstripped the number, well, the results of people who cast their votes was more than the number of people registered to vote in that particular ward. So that triggered the cancellation. I think in some, maybe they said the card reader didn't work and all kinds of technicalities. So it's within INEC's discretion to say they're canceling the votes for these areas. In the past, it used to be because of violence.
Yes.
So where maybe violence prevents people from going out to vote, so they cancel the votes in that area and they say, okay, look, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to cast your vote again. So for example, if we're having the presidential election and maybe due to one technical reason or the other, all the people staying in this area cannot vote. So they cancel and say, okay, we'll give you another chance. So I think that's what happened basically in Osho. But the good thing about it was that it was very few numbers.
Yes, yes. It wasn't a lot of numbers.
Yes, it wasn't a lot of numbers, which means that largely, if you look at that, you have to give them a pass mark. Yeah.
When you look at the process now, and so now we've started this process. Now there's been precedents now with the first election of this period. What do you think that people should take into the presidential election, into other gubernatorial elections, as they go out there and cast their votes, so that their votes aren't canceled, and also so that we don't end up in some of these situations where we have a lot of.
I think the one it's for INEC to learn from the lessons of Osun, because they have conduct of the elections, and it's largely their actions or inactions that can maybe lead to cancellation of votes. Card readers are not working, electoral materials do not arrive on time. But in this instance, they did, excuse me, they arrived on time. And then, well, the issue of violence is out of their control. So it's for the security agencies to take care of that. For example, I think there was a National Assembly elections in Rivers State that was cancelled entirely because of violence. So it's also for the security agencies to clamp down on that, to make sure that, because I think that governance will be better if votes count. Impunity will kind of take a backseat, because people will know that if I don't perform, if I don't deliver on my promises, the electorate will vote me out of power. And that would make them more accountable, rather than the situation where we are, where they know that, oh, whatever I do, because I'm from a particular party or from a particular ethnic stock, I'm going to win anyway. So they're not bothered to deliver services. And then, because we need to stop this recurring decimal of, it's only when it's time for elections that you see the politicians, you see them come to canvass for votes, to talk to you. We need to engage them all through the 4 years throughout their tenure in office to see that, look, you guys, are you performing? Why is this like this? Why isn't this working? We need to hold them accountable. The only way to do it is through the ballot paper. And once INEC starts making sure that votes count, then I believe that the people who we elect will also have to step up their game, because then they know that, oh, if I don't do this, then I'm out.
I can definitely be voted out.
Do parties have the ability to sue INEC for mishandling of the process?
Yeah, of course they do.
And with canceling of votes, can PDP go after INEC as well?
Of course they can. They can say the votes ought not to have been cancelled. They can legitimately say that, and I suspect and believe that they'll say that.
So if those votes come into, so how can that process work if PDP sues INEC and those votes?
PDP will, I'm sure they will go to court to say that, look, INEC, you have no right to call for a rerun. We scored in the very first elections, we scored the highest number of votes, and we ought to have been declared winner. So you have no right to call for a rerun for just about 3,000 votes. So treat all the provisions, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, INEC guidelines, to see whether INEC has the powers to call for the rerun or not. So, I mean, the PDP can do that.
So, as someone who advises people on what to do in these situations, if they were to go say, let's say, go after INEC, and these votes were, say, if all the evidence says, okay, maybe there was something here, will there be another rerun, or will those votes just be back in the pool of
So it would work
votes?
like this. If PDP, I believe they will present various challenges to this entire process. So, excuse me. The first challenge is to say perhaps that INEC has no powers to order a rerun. We scored the highest number of votes, and we ought to have been declared as the governor-elect. So if that pans out in their favor, then the rerun, the outcome of the rerun becomes inconsequential, and PDP has won. If that doesn't work, then they go to the rerun itself to maybe allege various things, that it wasn't free and fair, vote buying or what have you, but they have to establish it,
With where we are now in this situation, you don't see anything happening to the, do you see anything happening to the current state of play today in Osun State with the current results we have? Do you see anything being canceled, or do you even see a whole new election happening in Osun State? Or at this point, is it just sort of?
No, I don't think definitely what I can say is that I don't think there will be new elections. So the courts will decide based on the outcome of the two elections, which were held, the first one and the rerun. So the courts will largely decide based on the two.
Where you look at the sort of the road to 2019 and the next few elections, do you see more and more of these cases happening? Do you think there are going to be a lot of close calls, and we're going to have more legal processes happening? And how does Osun State lay the groundwork for what happens next in some of these other elections?
Yeah, Osun State is if we can read the signs, Osun State is telling us that the next elections, or all the elections, are going to be very close. Because,
this is so close.
Yes, this is. I can't recall any election, any general election in Nigeria being that close. Yeah. It boils down to just a few hundred of people in a place where over 1 million people voted. So, and I think that will be the pattern. I think I foresee the presidential elections also being that close, and even in Lagos State, all over the federation, because I think now what we have is that people are aware. With the millennial generation, they're up in arms, and you can see the campaign all over social media. Get your PVC, make sure you're registered, make sure you vote. And I think that is fantastic for our nation, because, like I said, it's the best way to hold these people we elected accountable by telling them that if you don't do what you promised, we have the power to get you out of office.
Very, very, a lot's going on. There's a lot to look forward to. There's been some allegations, or allegations or claims by the Chief Justice about SANs lugging around fake certificates. And as a member of this elite class of barristers, what is your take on that, and what do you say about that?
I think firstly is to correct the impression. What the CJ was saying was that in the application process, they discovered that people were presenting fake or forged documents. Cases to back up their claims. So he didn't say that there were a lot of senior advocates of Nigeria going about with.
He said is it very few? I guess the headlines got it wrong.
Yes. So it's in the selection process, the people who apply, because the conditions now are very steep. So you must have done a certain number of cases, appeared in so many courts. So what they're saying is that I believe in probably the last couple of selection processes, they discovered that people presented forged and fake documents.
But how can that happen?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the legal profession cannot be an island. Nigeria itself, and even the entire world, there's so many issues, so many things are going wrong. So in Nigeria, you have corruption all over. You have all kinds of scandals. We live from one scandal a day. That's the way I call it. So the legal profession cannot be immune from the larger society.
But that is really scary if you're telling me that the one system that we all hold high. Yes. I mean, that's the judiciary. And if you're saying to me...
No, it's not the judiciary. This time
it's the legal system. But it's all part of the same... I mean, it's all part of the same system. And I mean, when you look at the legal system...
But you see, the thing is that I don't think there's any cause for alarm, because there are so many people doing the right thing.
Yes.
But it's not news. So you see, when one person does the wrong thing, so then...
It makes me, we blow it out, almost like we're blowing it out of proportion.
It goes viral.
Yeah.
So I guess...
So it paints a very bad picture. But if you look at it by and large, a lot of people, a lot of judges, a lot of lawyers are complying.
Okay.
So, but when you have one
you have
person,
you have to defend your people.
And I think he was
okay.
He's
already, you remember, he's a lawyer. Let's be careful here.
No, that's a fair assessment.
And also that if the situation were if this was evident, we would have seen more cases.
Yes.
It wouldn't have been, the light wouldn't have been shown just like right now.
But let me ask you about the actual process, the SAN process. It's a very rigorous process, and so many people try every year to be part of this elite group of people. What is your take on the process and the system, and where do you actually think what do you think could be done better, or do you think the system is perfect as is?
I mean, I won't kid ourselves, there's no perfect system. It's work in progress. Right now, it's good, because there's so many checks. If, for example, the system wasn't up and doing and good, the CJN would not have discovered this. They wouldn't have discovered these candidates who presented forged papers. So to that extent, the system is working. But is it El Dorado? No. It can always get better. What we always say in law school is that, look, laws cannot be static, right? You have to keep improving them because, as people work out ways to get around them, the parliament, you also have to devise ways to catch up with them. So it's just like technology. Technology is innovative, it grows, law should also be developmental, so, and the thing with the rules is that the committee always reviews it. So by and large, I think the process is fair to all.
Do you think the best people rise to the top in the end through this process?
Yes, most definitely, because it's very rigorous, and if you don't have those required qualities, I doubt if you can make it through.
There's been a lot of people that have felt left behind by this process. Either they feel that I think there's also some of the requirements that leave certain people out, depending on where you're from or what state. What do you think, do you think that, once again, those are fair assessments, or do you think that, as you said, these things have to evolve and they have to be either more inclusive? How do you see that changing over the next few years?
No, I really don't think... Because, in making the appointments, they look at what you call the quota system. So they know that they must appoint somebody from perhaps the Northeast, North Central, Northwest, South. So they try to spread it all over. But there's nothing they can do if there's no candidate from those areas.
Yeah.
They also take into consideration gender balancing. So I think the rules really do take into consideration everybody. So, for example, whilst Lagos is the busiest in terms of litigation, commercial litigation, but it's not all, the people who are appointed every year, maybe 20% from Lagos. So they spread it all over the Federation. So to my mind, is very representative of gender and of the
national
nation.
character.
This is nationwide.
Okay. I know there was also, we were also talking earlier about just the number of cases that are just backlogged in the Nigerian legal system, and the fact that anyone, I mean, you know, we've just talked about the Osun case. You said that's probably going to be from beginning to end a year process. What is I mean, what is some of the things that we can be doing from a legal system? Is the legal system just overwhelmed? And why is the legal system overwhelmed, whereby so many people, you hear about cases just going on forever and ever?
Yes, indeed. It's true assessment that the legal system is overwhelmed by the number of cases being filed. In Lagos State Judiciary, for example, you see a judge on a given day has about 40-something cases. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it is right, because there is no way humanly possible for a judge to attend, you know, diligently to 40-something cases on his docket on a given day. So to my mind, and this is because, you know, in Nigeria, the cost that there's, in the UK, for example, if you file a frivolous case, the cost that will be awarded against you, you might go bankrupt, for example. Yeah, they don't take it lightly. So that's a deterrent. So you see a lot of people, when they're not so sure about the strength of their cases, so they won't go to court. They'll settle, they'll prefer to settle it out of court. But in Nigeria, anybody goes to court for any reason, you know. So I come to your studio and maybe perhaps you didn't say hello to me properly, and then I file a suit. And then you have to engage a lawyer. You have to take time out to attend court. At the end of the day, the judge says, "Oh, what a stupid case that you brought to court." And then I go home scot-free.
There are no fees.
Well, you know, they're paltry, they're insignificant. So I think we must have a different regime of cost, award of cost against frivolous cases.
So in that case, some things can be done to be reviewed so that it does help.
So that brings it down. Again, is that, you know, our laws allow too many appeals to go all the way to the Supreme Court. You know, in the United States of America, you know, very few cases make it all the way to the Supreme Court. Very, very few. So you see that their judges have more time. They have more resources. So, I mean, imagine a judge who has maybe 5 cases in a month. He can devote more time and resources to those 5 cases than our Supreme Court that has thousands of cases.
So those are some real reforms that need to happen in the legal system. When you look at, so first of all, I have a question for you. I mean, is Nigeria a very litigious country, or not any more litigious than others?
Extremely, extremely litigious. For me, that's good.
I know, it's good business for you.
It's good.
Good business for you.
It's good, but we need to look at, and which is something that is springing up, we need to look at alternative dispute resolution mechanisms.
But there's been a lot of talk about the arbitration. And how are people embracing arbitration in Nigeria?
Yeah, people are embracing it, but we could do better. You know, in Lagos, I can speak for Lagos, for example, people are embracing it. But even then, you know, we could still do better. A lot of cases that can be resolved by mediation, conciliation, are ending up in the courts.
Is that a matter of education, or is it a matter of...
Yeah, both. It is. It's because, sometimes litigants just think that, oh, I have to get this sorted out in court.
I want my day in court.
Yes, I want my day in court. But you could very well go into a room, arbitration, and have the same results. It's less expensive and less time consuming. Because you see some people, their disputes are over maybe 100,000, 200,000, petty disputes.
Yes.
Some
and there's like small claims court stuff.
Yeah, we have them, but they're also inundated with all this kind of matters. But if we have a system whereby people can say, look, so let's talk this through, and then they give them options and they agree amicably, then I think that is an education. We need to kind of reboot our systems, especially the litigants who believe that, no, the only way to resolve this is by going to court. So they still think that if I go to arbitration, the outcome is not as binding as a court judgment. But that's not true. Once both parties sign an arbitral award or the outcome of a mediation, it also has the same force as a court judgment. It can be enforced against either party.
So we're wrapping up, but you said something earlier that the legal system is not an island. And obviously, that is true. I mean, Nigeria is a country where, there's always talk of corruption, there's talk of EFCC. When you look at the relationship when you look at corruption in the legal system, what are some of the things that you're seeing that you believe can be really turning points for the legal system, especially when it comes to some of the EFCC investigations ongoing now? And what does the legal system need to do to reform itself from inside?
I think when you look at corruption and the Nigerian legal system, again, I would like to say that majority of Nigerian judges, to a large extent, are doing the right thing. Of course, there are a few bad apples, and they tend to spoil the whole bunch, as the saying goes. Judges are being disciplined. There's a process for disciplining judges. The process is there. Judges are being suspended. Their appointments are being terminated, where the petitioners against them can establish corruption or some grave misconduct against these judges. The NJC they've not spared these judges. So that is ongoing. Of course, again, that can also be tweaked to make it work better. On the side of the lawyers, there's also the disciplinary process. Unfortunately, most people are not even aware that these mechanisms are available. So if you have a problem with your lawyer, most people don't know that, you can report him. We have a disciplinary committee. And if you notice, senior advocates, their discipline is even more strenuous because you have a number of senior advocates, the rank is being withdrawn. One was removed from the last list for misconduct allegations. So the process is there, it's ongoing. People, maybe out of ignorance, and then sometimes, in Nigeria, there's also we have this culture of saying, that's the way it was meant to be. So people leave it, they don't pursue their rights. So somebody defrauds you, or somebody does something he ought not to have done, and then at the end of the day, people come to you and say, look, leave him, let him be, and all that. So that is also there. But by and large, the avenues are there for people to take up. The question is, do they do it?
Well, actually, you were saying that a lot of people don't know that they have recourse.
Yeah.
So if you don't know you have recourse, and I mean, to a lot of people, lawyers are very powerful people. And so if you're my lawyer and let's say there's been some impropriety, people don't know the process. So tell us a little bit about that process, and also tell us when you look at these disciplinary actions, are a lot of people that are being found, are they being disbarred? What happens with these? Tell us about the discipline. What is this discipline?
There is the LPDC, Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee. It is set up by law. It handles complaints against all lawyers. So anybody who has an issue with his legal practitioner for what we call unbecoming conduct can report to the Nigerian Bar Association. The report goes to a subcommittee. They look at it to see if the complaint there's a prima facie basis in the complaint. If they find a prima facie case, they forward the complaint to the disciplinary committee. That lawyer is charged before the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee is made up of lawyers and judges, and they sit, they look at the complaint. The complainant has his day.
Okay.
The lawyer who is being charged also has his day. And at the end of the day, the committee gives its decision. And the decisions they give, which they publish in the papers, they can either strike out the lawyer's name from the role of legal practitioners. They can suspend him from practicing. They can admonish him. They can ask him in certain cases to refund money. So they take a wide range of actions. It's very effective.
So yeah, I was going to ask how effective is it? Because on one hand, you've definitely mentioned the fact that there are issues within the judiciary system, as well as the time frame that it takes. And even this sounds like a lengthy process. But if I have an issue with
my lawyer,
I'm going to go and now sue him in front of other lawyers. So I would ask, how effective is that process in itself that you've seen? How many
and work out for the complainant?
It's very, very, very effective, I tell you, because you know why? Because I'm a prosecutor before the LPDC.
Oh, okay.
And I've seen, like in the last session, I think about maybe 60-something lawyers had their names struck off. But people, what I said, people don't follow through. Yeah. So we even have cases at the LPDC where people make complaints, but when they invite them out to come and present their case, they say they've settled with the lawyer.
Yeah, or don't you even have to get another lawyer to come and present your case? It's lengthy.
No, you don't have to get another lawyer. The NBA prosecutes for you. So you don't have to, the complainant doesn't have to engage a lawyer. The NBA is a prosecutor. So they select a team. They have a team of prosecution counsel before the disciplinary committee. So they prosecute their peers. And the lawyers themselves are very, very harsh on each other because they see that these people who misconduct themselves are giving us a bad name and misrepresenting us in the public. So the process is very, very fair and very thorough.
There's a lot of faith in our system. Basically,
it's good to know that there is action that you can
working. That our system works.
We
have to bring in someone that has been on the other side of the table the next time to actually see how well the system worked out for them. But we'll take your word for it this time. No, thank you so much for being here. But as we close up and as you look at as voters look at their rights and voters go out to vote and really speak at the ballot box, what are some of the things that they need to make sure they do so that their district or their area doesn't become part of these vote canceling? And also, when we look at the legal process for candidates, what are some of the things they need to do to make sure that they're armed with the right legal processes to make sure that they have a fair day at the ballot?
Voters should just go to cast their ballots in a non-violent way.
So violence is the number one reason why votes get canceled.
Yeah. So if there's violence, ballot snatching that we used to have in an area, the votes are likely to be canceled. So everybody just has to be vigilant. One thing that INEC did, which I liked so much in the last election, was to this vote buying incidents was to say people cannot take their phones, into the ballot where you cast your votes, because that was largely how vote buying was being conducted. So you will snap a picture of where you thumb printed, and then you show it to the party, and then you get paid. So I think that was very good on their part. And I think also all the NGOs, all the international bodies, I'm glad that they're rallying around to see that we have as perfect a process as possible.
And a smooth one also.
Yes, and a smooth one. I think if votes count, and I think we are halfway through solving the problem of bad governance. Because when you know that votes count, then you're going to do the work.
Yes.
So above average for democracy today.
Yeah.
From Osun State. In Osun State, yes.
And hopefully,
going forward, we think we should keep up the trend.
Yes.
We look forward to having you back. We want to continue this conversation with other elections, and also as we look forward to 2019. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.